Just do it for Miami Dolphins. The pressure, he's in trouble. Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle. It's a Dolphin touchdown. Throwing deep upfield on the near side. Man open. Touchdown! Looking deep. He's got a man. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown! Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. 1, 2, 3, let's go!
What's good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back for another one. And I meant to do this before. I'll do it now. It is time, baby. The crew is back together. Don't look. Gentlemen, we are back at it like a Craftmatic. And I want to thank all of y'all for coming out. Gentlemen, let's start. We'll start with Doug. We'll get to Neal. Everyone just flow off each other. How are y'all feeling? You know, is everything normal for y'all guys? Everyone anxiety at an all-time low? How's everyone feeling being a Dolphin fan right now? Doug, we'll start with you.
It's fun. It's fun. It's a fun time. I don't think we can ever have anything easy. I don't think our blood pressure can ever be normal. Some of us already got the pitchfork and, you know, the torch is out, storm in the castle, and some of us are in wait and see mode. And I think we all know what we're talking about. But I'm doing good. I'm actually doing pretty good. My kitchen's almost done, so I almost have a kitchen back. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
The knife will be easy to reach and stab something with when everything doesn't go our way with Fangio. Beautiful. Just make sure it's a teddy bear and not the wall. Then you got to patch that up. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Neal, what's going on?
Ooh, 54 hours ago, I was doing great. I was
Bro,
on
this
top
guy's
of the world.
counting. He messaged me. He's like, it's been 48 hours. I want y'all to realize he's counting.
Well, here's why, though, right? Like, you know, I know we're going to get into it, but, like, I truly believe that's the type of move that can set this franchise to take the next step, to have the ability to enhance the defense like we saw the leap the offense took. You know, special teams and special teams, that's a whole nother topic for another day. But, you know, when I saw that news, and Tom Pelissero is a source that I think everyone in this panel would say is a guy that we trust. It's just one of those things that you're waiting. I have carpal tunnel in my thumbs from refreshing my Twitter so much to see if anything has changed. But, you know, I think at this point, you know, we just got to wait and kind of see how the chips lie when everything settles. There's a lot of information. I have never seen a story myself that had so much different information from so many different sources, both credible, you know, wannabes in the middle, everything. I just have never seen a compilation of different news. And I've given up trying. I'm just waiting to see what comes across the ticker.
Dante, I felt the pain of every letter you wrote or typed out in your tweet yesterday. And I even responded because I was so delusional and said samesies like it was 2001 and we were Valley Girls. I can feel the pain that you're creating content because I put out I just ran with my first part of my series yesterday. How are you feeling as a content creator like a lot of us up here with this whole Fangio thing?
Well,
bro? How's that feeling?
I gotta say I'm a little bit nervous. I clicked send on my 1,500 word Fangio preview before we hopped on this call. So if he doesn't actually end up in Miami, I'm gonna be shit out of luck. So I'm not looking forward to that. But at the same time, as I sat down and tried to teach myself the Fangio defense the past 2 days, it's very exciting. There's a lot of good stuff, you know. So I'm pretty excited, right? And I think. I've kind of talked myself through if he doesn't come here, who are they going to get? And I like the other guys that they interviewed too. So I don't think there's like a bad version of this. Obviously, you want to get Vic Fangio, but if they hire a guy like Sean Desai, it's going to be the same system, just run by, we have Vic Fangio at home, and it's Sean Desai. So
should we add Steve Wilkes to the list if Fangio?
I think we should. I don't think he'll come here, but I think we should. So I'm nervous, like everyone else up here, probably. I think we'd all love to see Vic Fangio, and I already wrote a ton about it. So if that gets thrown in the trash, I will be pissed. But right now, we're just wait and see. Hope it goes well.
Richmond,
what's up, bro?
how are you feeling?
I like the Lokes, dog. You ready to do the wild thing up there? I see you. Hey, man. I'm good.
Bro, listen, I'll never be as fly as you walking along that beach that I saw, no socks on with the dog shoes on.
Please don't bring it up.
Yo,
Please
bro,
don't bring it
hopping
up.
in your Beamer and whipping out with the onesie. Hey, you were doing it.
I deserve a pass. I was too young. I didn't know any better. Don't do me like that, Reese. Come on now. Hey, man, I'm good. Glad to be back on the panel with these brilliant minds, and definitely excited about the news. But like Dante said, even if this falls through, I think the succession plan, we're in good hands. I mean, the season just ended, and trying to land a big name like this, it shows the dedication that they are committed to winning. And like Neal and Douglas said, when you can match the way the offense took off with the defense, I mean, that you can't help but to be excited. So other than that, I'm good. Just checking on Mr. BallGame, see what he's doing over there. I don't know what he's looking at over there. How you doing, sir?
Hey, man, I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be here. I think for me, man, to be honest with you, having the background that I have in terms of defense, I don't think we could go wrong with any of the names that are still out there. Shit, boy, you can get a whole lot better than what we had. You know what I'm saying? And anything better than what we had will be an improvement, in my opinion. I don't necessarily get into these long rants about what we shouldn't do and what we should do, because I know that my opinion sometimes don't affect much of that. But I do believe that the defense regressed at a time where the offense was taking the upward trajectory, and that just can't happen, right? That side needs to be stabilized across the board, because what we're seeing, truthfully, right now at this point, is that the offenses are advancing at such a fast pace that if you don't have a defense, you're in trouble, right? You're gonna get ran out of the stadium, and we have very, very good pieces in place, and we just need a mind to come in and be able to put these guys in the best place, the best positions to execute. And I think a lot of the names that are out there, even if it's not him, which I do believe it is, and it will be him, Ross is not afraid to spend the money. I think, relationships matter, right? And I think a lot of these guys, what we're seeing across the board also is a lot of loyalty, man. And when the relationships are good, they'll come and, help out each other, for the greater good. And there's not a lot of selfishness for themselves. And if Fangio comes, I think he'll bring in some other guys that, even if it's only a 2-3 year deal with him, we'll have stability in that space for the long term. And that can only just bode well for us across the board, because I believe Mike's here for a long period of time. So I'm excited, man.
Everything you guys have said, and we'll get Martin's thoughts, it just reminds me back to what Barry was saying today, when Barry seems flabbergasted at why we all want him. Like, you listen to what BallGame said, and, talking about, and just when he's talking about the players there, and I think we were all licking our chops when we heard Fangio and what Jalen Phillips would become under him. What Chubb will he knows. If anyone knows how to use Chubb, it's the man who had him as a Pro Bowler. We were all looking our chops.
He is now again, Reason. He is
you know what I meant. You know what I meant, right? And this, we all were like licking our chops because we know the second level is going to get rebuilt, right? Like, we all know these changes are coming that are going to correct everything, and we all knew Fangio ain't putting up with 3rd and 17 conversions that lead to a touchdown before half, and he ain't putting up with the missed tackles we had this year. Okay, that stuff ain't flying. Like, we knew all these changes were going to come, and I agree with what you guys are saying with like Sean Desai. I think he'd do the same thing. Chris Richard, et cetera, et cetera. So I agree with all you guys that the names are really strong behind him. But, when do we ever get the bell of the ball like this, right? So, Martin, And I think we all know this subconsciously, guys. The thing here is we know this is the part that Flores never got right. And McDaniel has the chance to get the other side of the ball. He doesn't coach right, and you can't get it more right than what that option is. So, Martin, how are you feeling, brother, after everything that's transpired in the last, what was it, 54 hours, you said, Neal?
Heading into 55.
23 seconds.
Hour 55.
Yeah.
Nah, this is I feel like everyone else, man. This is like, dang, can we have anything nice? Or because this is it's not necessarily confusing, because if I'm not mistaken, Vic Fangio is tied with he's locked in with the Eagles, correct? Like in their,
he's just a consultant, so he could technically announce his signing somewhere else if he wanted to, because he's
and for all we know, I don't know if the if the lull is tied to some type of Super Bowl preparation thing going on. So maybe that's like the wiggle room that we can deal with right now. But for the most part, man, like even Mr. BallGame said, for the offense to take such steps and significant steps at that, especially at the quarterback position, and for the defense to just do the 180 regression when we're looking to say, okay, we have the defense now, let the offense step up. That was the concerning part. But to bring in a guy like Vic Fangio, it tilts everything. It tilts the scale. And again, when I'm seeing the playoffs, and I'm looking at the Chiefs and the Bengals, the Bills, the Jaguars, you know what I mean? And I'm looking at these playoff games, I'm like, damn, I think we can beat these teams. You know what I mean? Like when you can like look at it from that vantage point, you're like, okay. So what do we need? And lo and behold, we see on the ticker, Vic Fangio, highest paid coordinator. That's something that we're all licking our chops. We're like, you know what, man? If that happens, then that should be the last push. But this hesitation, I don't know, man. It's like cold feet at the altar, man. It's like, damn, I don't know. But we're all patiently waiting, man. But it's a good wait. It's a good wait for us.
I mean, I think if you think about it though, in terms of what's right, D'Amico didn't say anything about where he was going until they were officially out. And the guy's a consultant. I just think there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. He's old school, and I do believe that you finish the business that you started before you start a whole new venture somewhere else, right? So if the Eagles essentially being in the that they're going to be in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't want to take away from that I'm offering to them right now at this point, and ruin what they got going in terms of energy by having the spotlight shine on me. I'd wait till afterwards as well to announce it. You know what I mean? And then from there, it's I don't know. I guess there's professional ways to do things. Some guys give a crap, but he's an old school head, man, and I think there's something to be said about that, right? They've already got the deal in place, and he's just waiting.
Yeah, and like we know that deal got probably. The agent leaked that deal because that's how Pelissero knew about the fourth-year team option, all right? And the thing is, that agent is the same agent for McDaniel. Do people really think he's going to screw McDaniel for fan? Like, that's what this is going to come down to. Like, you're going to screw one client over the other. Like, it's, you're going to leave a bitter taste in your mouth between clients. Like, that's not good business. I don't know, but let's play this, what happened today. And then I want to hear all you guys' opinions on this stuff, okay? So we'll do this in chronological order. We'll start with, I believe it starts with the Pat McAfee thing this afternoon. So this is what Ian Rappaport said on Pat McAfee.
Vic Fangio, he was to the Dolphins. Then his camp said he's not to the Dolphins. D'Amico Ryan's in the building of the Houston Texans today, we have heard. So he's out at San Fran. Vic Fangio going back to the San Francisco 49ers where he has some close kin. Is that kind of how we see this whole thing panning out?
So it really did sound like, it does sound like that Fangio went way, way down the road with the Miami Dolphins. And Pelissero reported it. I definitely trust him. I also saw the comments from Vic Fangio, who I also trust, considering it's literally him. It's a weird situation. It did sound like there was an agreement with the Miami Dolphins, and I believe that is still going to be the case. But it is interesting because, San Francisco is going to lose D'Amico Ryans, likely to be the Texans coach, could come today.
And it did.
And obviously he has a lot of good history there. They'd have to change the scheme up a little bit. They kind of moved away from what he ran when he was there. But he is the master. He is great. And I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco was like, you know what? Nothing signed. Maybe we could make a run at this. So I think in the end he goes to the Dolphins.
Oh.
But it's like free agency when someone has an agreement and you're like, all right, that's definitely going to be true, probably. And then you kind of wait until he signs.
Okay, interesting. So we think Vic is still going to the Dolphins, but there's a lot of people that know Vic Fangio personally who say, hey, he's got a lot of connections to that San Francisco area, including, I believe, his significant other.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Okay. That's right.
I believe is from, which we all know, any of us who are married know, and I don't think he's married, but all of us who have ever been in a relationship know that is a driver. I mean, that is certainly a driver. Happy wife, happy life.
And I think that he's totally correct on that. But anyways, I'll give you my thoughts on that in a sec. Let's keep it rolling. This is then what happened. This is from KOA 850 AM. So this is the same radio station where Ben Albright covers the Denver Broncos. All right. And this is Dave Logan. And this is what he said at 5:28. So about 4 or 5 hours after we just saw that clip.
Be completely clear about this. The Broncos and the Dolphins continue to negotiate with Vic Fangio. So that is not yet a done deal. But, to me, it appears that that's the direction this thing is going to go. I can't say 100% done, but as of last night, about 7 o'clock, that's where this thing was headed.
Okay. Well, and we had heard ahead of this whole process that Sean Payton and Vic Fangio had already had conversations.
That's true.
So we already knew that coming into it. And
they had conversations last year,
right,
about becoming the.
This is after
duo
Payton.
working
They
in
acquired
Miami.
Payton.
That deal was going to happen, and Tom Brady was going to be the quarterback of the Dolphins until Brian Flores and that situation cropped up, and then that killed that deal.
Right.
So I think Vic. Not speaking for Vic.
So it was going to be Peyton and Vic Fangio with Brady in Miami, apparently, until the Flores
hey, what would it be like to come back here? As I was just here not long ago, right? I was the head coach, right? So to me, I think the Broncos fan base would be down with that. I mean, I think you get an excellent defensive coach, guy that understands defense, complex. To me, that would be the ideal match. That is correct.
Okay, so that's what now that comes out and everyone's like, what? All of a sudden the Broncos are players, okay? So then about an hour and a half later, 2 hours later, Marcel Louis-Jacques is asked, is Vic still coming to Miami? That is what I've been told by multiple sources and the impression that I'm still under. And that's the impression I've been under from everyone I've talked to, that the agreement's still in place. So, I mean, guys, we've just laid out 3 freaking, Ian Rappaport, Pat McAfee at San Fran and Miami. You go to Denver, it's Denver and Miami. You come and Marcel's sources, we know where they're coming from, and they're as plugged in as they can be inside that building. And they're telling him this. And I know for a fact, and we won't get into detail, but, there's word going around that players are telling people that Fangio's coming. So, I mean, let's, before I get Neal all worked up here, guys, whoever wants to jump in and take it away, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that SHIT show I just literally laid out for you in a matter of 6 minutes.
It's all sources. That was the problem, and that is the problem from jump. Source says this, and this wasn't a thing back in the day. It wasn't a thing back in the day where source says this, source. It was just boom, someone's own signed. He signed. Because I was saying this on Twitter. If it wasn't leaked about him agreeing to terms with Miami and his contract, if Tom Pelissero never leaked it, no one would be freaking out because this is probably the normal situation where, okay, yeah, I agree to these terms, but I'm also going to go talk to San Fran real quick and see what they have to say. And then Miami's like, oh, we'll match that. We'll give you. That's probably what happens behind the doors. But Tom Pelissero put it out there. All of us Dolphin fans got super excited. Us content creators are like, let's go. We got him. And now we all look like we got egg on our face if he backs out. It's a Josh McDaniels type situation because it's made out to be a Josh McDaniels situation. If everything was just kept hush hush until that pen hit that paper, no one would be freaking out right now.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm a pessimist by nature, so I always like to poke holes in the positive. But one thing I've been I've been in sales for 20 years, and I know time kills deals. And Richmond, you're an ex-player. Someone's dingling $4 to $5 million a year at you, and you have a verbal agreement. I feel like you want to rush to get that signed. Now, I will say one thing in the positive direction, which is I think the Dolphins' silence here is saying a lot. I think the Dolphins not making any statements, not setting up any interviews, not panicking here, makes them feel like they're in the driver's seat. And the thing I have a hard time seeing is a 65-year-old man who's well-respected in this, this league, who's a well-respected man outside of this league as well, to go back on his word in a Josh McDaniels type fashion just rubs me the right. I just don't see how it could happen. Now, I think the 49ers job's intriguing. I think the Denver thing's just like a hypothetical because I don't know how you would go from being
You're
fired,
swallowing your pride.
like getting fired. And then, he's a prideful man who's got, people lining up for him. But, I like to do my business like Alexander Sosa from Scarface, right? And that is,
of course,
Tony, don't you ever beat me. Don't you ever beat me, right? And if you verbally agree to a deal with me and I'm under the pretense that that is done, and then I find out that you're interviewing with other people, and we have not heard any of that yet. This is speculation with San Francisco and Denver. None of it has been a confirmed visit. But if I see across my ticker there's a confirmed visit, let's start looking at other options. And that's just because I don't think that you want to be someone's plan B. Reason you said we've never got the bell of the ball.
Sean Payton was a plan B, and look what they paid for him.
Right, and you know what? I think the smart football fans are sitting there saying, why the hell did Denver just do that, right? But at the end of the day, I think we're going to have some clarity in this in the next probably 24 to 48 hours. But it's easy to get impatient when you think something's done. Like Pelissero's details were too detailed to not be accurate.
Let's talk about this. That's why I go back to it's clearly the agent that fed that. That's why someone on Twitter put up, if you go on the agent's client bio, Fangio's there, and it says he's the pilot of the Dolphins defense. It's right up there, right? And then you look at Barry Jackson. Barry Jackson, meaning you talked about this, Neal. You can count on one hand with probably only two fingers how many times Pelissero and Barry Jackson have been wrong combined. All right. And then when you hear what happened, I was telling Patreons, I was telling channel members, I heard this is how it went down. Okay. Thursday, they had their meeting. He said, give me the weekend.
Right.
They got in contact Sunday. The agreement was made Sunday. Right. Me and you talked about the lawyer stuff and all that jazz. The law, because of the incentives in the deal and stuff. So that's the timeline we know. Then what did Barry Jackson come out today? Barry Jackson came out today and said the agreement wasn't made until this weekend. Followed that exact timeline. So it's crazy because if you think about it, the South Floridian media and anyone who's plugged into the Dolphins, whatever, they're all under the impression that this agreement is still in place and nothing's wavered. It's the national media and everyone outside Miami that's like, this isn't done. It's not a done deal with Miami. That fruit is still hanging from the tree. That's what's crazy to me because, you could talk about whoever, all the people in South Florida, they're plugged into people in the building, and so everyone is under the impression this agreement is, and nothing's changed. So that's what really this whole thing is crazy to me. It's like Miami versus everybody right now, if you think about it, because all the Miami-based sources are saying what this agreement is placed. All the sources outside of Miami are saying it's not.
No one
That's basically how this is right now. That's what this is.
Yeah, I like Jeff Darlington, and Jeff Darlington seemed to think this was a done deal. Cameron Good is another guy I like, and he was on Big O's show today, and he even said something along the lines that Vic Fangio They didn't even know how long Vic Fangio has really been helping the Eagles, and they're not even sure if he still has been helping the Eagles.
Yeah.
Mid-season,
he said. Apparently mid-season or something.
To your point, Reason, I think we've seen very credible sources. If you name 10 people that I trust when it comes to Miami Dolphins news, I would say at least 5 of them have confirmed this story. Another guy's Andy Slater, who seems to always be
he basically stopped short of guaranteeing. Like, if you go read his wording, I put his thing up. Like, he basically damn near guaranteed. Like, and look at even Alain Poupart said the same thing yesterday too. That Alain Poupart was under the impression that this could be announced within the next 48 hours. He was under the same impression as Slater, and that was yesterday. And obviously, it hasn't happened in the it's been 24 hours since they both said it, but they were both under the impression that this would happen today or tomorrow, and they said that yesterday. So, I mean, and again, a couple of us here know what the deal is. You know, players are going around. They're not only are Tyreek and stuff going publicly on Instagram when it happened, but players are apparently privately telling people that he's coming here. Like, it's like everyone in South Florida is just convinced the agreement is in place, and everyone outside is like, it's weird. Like, have you guys? It's not even a head coach. It's a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to backfire, man. Like, that's the one thing. I don't want us to come off as the desperate team that was used to drive up the price for another team. Like, I think a good team is prepared for a plan B. And maybe, look, they're silent. Maybe they have a plan B. Maybe it is Sean Desai.
Bro, we've heard the money. Yo, Neal, me and you have heard the money.
Yeah, I know.
Where's he going to find that? We're talking between like $4.5 million a year right now. This guy, like,
that was one of the things I said on Twitter. Is, to me, what it comes down to is, with Miami, he gets the power and he gets the money. With San Fran, he gets his girlfriend. Like,
yeah, I know, eh?
Which one?
I know, eh? He's so right. You know what, yo, Doug, listen, we got married men up here and we got men in relationships up here, okay? This is my opinion on this. We all know this, all right? I love you, baby. And I'm not looking at the heavens. I'm looking, she's sitting above me, all right? Okay, so she's alive and well. I just want everyone to know that. So we all know how this works, all right? They throw the bag on the table. His eyes blow up. He says, yeah, okay, yeah, I take that. Because from what I've heard, McDaniel was willing for Fangio to make more money a year than him. And he was totally fine. He okayed that. He's totally fine with that. And what's crazy to me, though, is you throw that bag in him, and what I think his significant other knew San Francisco was interested. And it's one of those things of, I want you to take that interview because I want you back out here. And it's going to turn into, well, I know a few of you up here have heard the same thing I've heard. Jed York ain't putting up the bag that Stephen Ross is going to put up. I've heard, like, he's not going to come close to making him the highest paid. And that's why Carolina backed out, because they weren't willing to do it. So, I mean, you know, I think it's going to be like, yeah, baby, I did the interview, but they weren't willing to put up the bag. Love ya. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's one of those things of, she wants him to. And this is my own personal theory. I am speculating. I've not heard this from anyone. I'm married. That's all the evidence I need to know. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, she can adjust to South Beach. She'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, what she want? A new bag? What does she want?
She's like a high, like highly touted eye surgeon out there. I don't think she's leaving.
Oh, well.
Yeah, so she makes the big bucks out there. So I don't think
he'll be making enough money to put her on the private jet.
You need to send him BallGame. You need to send him the long distance marriage guide, because tell everyone where your wife lived for a couple years while you were in South Florida, right up there in Cali, baby.
She was in Cali.
Vic.
We built different though, so I don't know. I need to know the background of this chick though. You know what I mean? My wife and I built a little different, but at the same time,
well, your wife's Italian and he's Italian, so there is some correlation.
Yeah, that's true.
Just saying.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I don't think across the board, man. I just feel like, again, dude is old.
I think it's gonna happen,
man. Yeah, I think you just don't want to.
Yeah.
You know, let everything else that's happening happen, and then after it's all said and done, then you announce it. Because what do you do? What do you lose? He can't really do anything anyway. You feel me? Like, he'll go in and get the title, but you can't start sending guys stuff, and you can't start doing any of that stuff anyway. So what's the rush? You know, if the contract looks good, I don't give a shit. Go talk to whoever you want. Nobody gonna pay you what we willing to pay you. So if it's not a money issue,
Here come the fans.
I mean, if it's a money, yeah, like
put in for the transfer, huh? No, you're
Nah,
right.
they got some top end.
No, and I'm like Dante, man. Like I started researching all of the, everything, the terminology, his formations, what he does. Like I started just deep diving, and I became excited. The more I deep dived in, I was like, oh my God, this thing. People thought we're enamored by Flores, and it made you realize how really gimmicky Flores was and how unsustainable it was compared to something like the way this has been built, man. And when you deep dive and you realize why so many guys out of the tree are successful implementing it now. Guys at the, at the DC, from under the tree. I don't know about head coaches yet because it's still out on Staley and stuff. Dante, what do you think about all this, bro?
I honestly think I kind of feel like I'm sitting in like my journalism ethics class at school. Like this is like the type of stuff that we would talk about in class. So it's kind of funny for me. But I think people have conflated the term, not people here, but people in general have conflated agreed to terms with contracts signed. And those are not the same thing. They're very different. And this happens a lot in free agency, right? Because what happens in free agency, we have those 3 tampering day periods. Yeah. Adam Schefter has all the drafts saved. He hits send at midnight when the tampering period opens, and it's all these agreed to term tweets, right? And then every year there's usually, most of them are right. About 98% of them come out right. Every year there's about 2 or 3 where, this guy actually ended up here instead of here. Right. And again, like, I'm sure that they did agree to terms, right? I'm sure there was a number that they come to that the team was good with, Fangio was good with, and you know what? He's just chilling right now. I don't know what else to say. Like, I really just think that he's gonna pour over his options. He's gonna make sure he makes the right decision, and then he's gonna go from there. I don't really think it's the Eagles thing. I don't think he's like really plugged in there as people think he is. I think there's a difference between if he was like a defensive analyst for that team, I think that would be a different conversation. Or assistant. But, as a consultant, like when I was doing research for the story that I wrote for SI Dolphins coming out soon, like I tried to find his Eagles page just to see if he had one for the hell of it. He does not. So like he is not really like, I don't think he'd get a Super Bowl ring if they win on Sunday. I really don't. And I don't mean to say that to
brother.
Like, to
when you look at what Gannon's done defensively, he better. That's all I gotta say. Because Gannon's basically ripped them off.
I'm just saying he won't. And so, like, I don't think that's the issue here. I think look, they agreed to terms. Vic is going to take his time. He loves San Francisco. He has a lot of connections there. And maybe he just wants to go back there. I mean, crap, I don't know if you can convince me that Denver was a better job than Houston, and DeMeco Ryans just wanted to go back home to be where he was the guy. Maybe that's what Fangio wants to do in San Francisco. I don't know. I'm not really worried. I'm more annoyed at this point than anything. Enough people have confirmed it that I feel good about it. I just think we have to wait a little bit and make sure that he explores all of his options, and he still feels like Miami's the best one.
I think Philly's was the biggest threat in terms of if Gannon was going to get another job, they were going to make a hard run at him. But the real question I got for you, Dante, is I know you're up that way in Pennsylvania. If he doesn't sign for us, can we count on you to spray paint it like it's Finkel's house? Just run up there.
You gotta tell me where he is. I'm out here in like the backwoods of Pennsylvania, so he seems like a guy who would live in a remote area. I feel like I might not be too far from him.
Don't worry. We got Clump's address with no problem. We'll get his. Don't worry about it. All right.
Oh, Lord.
No.
Okay. I got to ask you guys this. And I mean, look, Neal, we'll start with you. Do you want a guy who's even playing games with your heart like this?
Well, look, nothing's been confirmed that he is not. But if he takes another interview, and I think that's a game changer. If like everything we hear is hearsay right now. If he verbally agreed to a deal and then says, you know what? No, now I'm going to go meet with Denver or San Francisco. I think it's really hard for the Dolphins to sit there and hope he falls back and be plan B. I mean, that just shows you that he doesn't have the passion and fire to be here in Miami. And, I think Fangio is an A+ slam dunk hire, but I don't want to be desperate for one coach. That's not what, I think what we've seen the Dolphins do historically is try to make that huge acquisition and Ndamukong Suh, whatever it be. But you need the continuity between, the teams, the front office. You need a good atmosphere, and being desperate for a defensive coordinator, as bad as I want him, isn't the look that I want the team to take. So let's say, put it like I think being patient is okay. But if we hear that tomorrow he's on a jet and he's going to go visit Jed York, then I'm not going to be patient anymore. And I am calling Steve Wilkes, and I'm calling Mike Zimmer, and I'm talking to Sean Desai again, and I'm trying to figure out, you know what? You were supposed to be my prom date. Instead, you went with my buddy. Now I'm just going to find a better girl.
But he said, whoa. He's just picking up your buddy's phone call. He hadn't said yes to go, there's no, what do you call that? That little flower they put on the girl's wrist?
Corsage.
There's no corsage on his wrist yet. Let's relax here. Because my whole thing is,
I don't care if you
the gap between him and the gap between two things. The gap between him and every other candidate is so vast, A, and B, he's so respected and has so much experience in the league that don't you kind of owe him the respect to see out the other options? Listen, let me put it this way, okay? If you had Big Vic energy, and you know what I mean by that, wouldn't you be, you know what, go see what the other options are. I know where you're going to come crawling back to. You're going to come back to the paycheck. You're going to come back to South Beach, Del Boca Vista, lunch at 4:30, right? Pens you can write upside down with. Brother, I'm just like, aren't you being a little too harsh, Neal?
No, I mean, let's say this. Say we get Fangio and we're going to the Super Bowl next year, and I have 2 Super Bowl tickets. Reason, and I say on Monday, hey, Reason, you want to come to the Super Bowl with me? I got a ticket for you, right? And then on Wednesday you say, hey, Neal, should I book my flight? And I say to you, hey, you know what? I don't know yet. I might go take Richmond instead, right?
Yeah, don't book it if you say that.
Yeah, and right. So it's like I don't know. I just think it's interesting, because it's not like we didn't know that DeMeco Ryans was going to get a head coaching job before he agreed to terms, right? Like, yeah, I honestly thought he was going to land in Denver, and
so did I
went home.
Yeah.
And so it's not like this was a big secret. So if he knew this was coming, see. I forget who I saw on the timeline. It was somebody that was pretty trusted, and it was a good point. They said that, practically the 49ers losing that game could have hurt us, because if they were going to Super Bowl and the game wasn't for another 2 weeks, Vic Fangio might have been in more of a rush to get this done. But since, they're out.
You really think he's going to take less money and go back to a place where he already went to a Super Bowl with Harbaugh? I mean, and let me put it through. Am I the only one who remembers he turned down a consultant position with them last February because he wanted a DC position and they were only offering a consultant position, and he turned them down? I believe it was February 7th, February 8th. He's already turned them down once before, like within the last 365 days.
Let me see. I don't know what his career earnings are.
That's why this feels like the wife is behind. That's why it feels like there's a little bit of it's driven by the power of love. You know what I mean? And rightfully so, right? Like, hey, listen, all of us up here would be, hey, if we had a $100,000 job on the table, but someone was offering us 85 or 90,000, and our wives said, hey, I want you to go check it out. We'd go check it out, even though if we knew we were going to take the other $100,000 job because it got more benefits, we got a better office, blah, 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 blah. We'd take that. But we'd still do the song and dance, right? We'd still humor. I'm not saying this is my theory, right? I'm just speculating, right? That's what it feels like. That, like, I don't believe Denver for a second. I do not believe he's tucking his tail and walking back to Denver.
No.
I don't believe that for a sec. And San Fran, it just feels like it's I've heard him, and there's a lot of mutual respect between him and Jed York. But listen, Neal, and you know this firsthand with Lamar and the situation up there with the owner, brother, there can be as much respect between an employee and an employer. But when that bag comes in the middle of that, respect all of a sudden is literally earned. You know what I mean? So
the money situation gets interesting because your scenario is a little bit different, right? And I can tell you that in my life, I've taken less money in a job because I didn't feel like traveling in airports 40 weeks a year anymore. I do know that he had $35 million guaranteed in his contract from Denver when he was the head coach. So it's a little unique of a situation because as a defensive coordinator, you would say that he's probably as established financially as there is in the league of any defensive coordinator there is. Say he's made $45, $50 million in his career. So it's a little bit unique. I don't think the money, and he's 65. It's his last opportunity to probably cash in. I do think that money is a factor, but a guy with the old school principles of him, and this is why, and it's a double-edged sword, what I'm about to say, the guy with these old school principles like him, it's not always about the money, but he also won't go against his word.
But it's not even just the money. The money, it's okay. We know this. We see this with coaches in different aspects. We see the stubbornness. We see the ego play out with how they use players, with how, all that kind of stuff. All right. It's one of those things where it's not so much about the money. It's the principle that he's paid more than a lot of coaches in the NFL.
Sure.
And he's the highest paid coordinator on either side of the ball by a vast margin. That's something to put in your pocket and walk around with, right? Like that's what I think the principle is. Like, because that's what we know he told Carolina, right? The starting point was, well, it starts with making me the highest paid defensive coordinator.
Yeah. The one question I ask is, do you think he thinks that he has a better opportunity to win in San Francisco versus Miami? Could that be played into it? I love the Dolphins. I think they're an upstart. They're a young team. But if I'd be lying if I said, hey, if I look at that San Francisco defense and I see Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, I mean, could that play into this as well?
Anyone take that? Go ahead, Dante.
Yeah, but it could. It could, but it could. But you got a Christian Wilkins, Jalen Phillips. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of young guys who now at this point names ring out just as well as those guys over there. The only thing they didn't have was the leadership. That's all they missed, right? And in terms of how you go about breaking them down, I mean, they got some pieces over there that we wish we'd have, but I think we could have been markedly better across the board had we had a leader that actually understood exactly how to implement and execute in the times that these guys, instead of leaving these guys out there, you know what I'm saying, to figure it out for themselves, because they look lost a lot of the time. And when you look across and you looked at Boyer, every time I saw him stand on the sideline, he looked lost too. So, he did. All they're looking for is some leadership. And I think it's relationships, man. I think when it comes, who does he have a better relationship with? Like if our young coach is saying, I don't care if this guy makes more money than me. I just want to make this Dolphins organization and this team the best it can be. That says a lot too about they no ego in that. And NFL coaches have some of the biggest egos on the planet.
Right.
But if this guy's saying, I don't care if my DC makes more money than me, just get me the guy that I know can come in and get these guys to be the best version of themselves. And if he already gave him his word that, he gonna give the man the time he needs. I don't care. Give him all the time he needs. He ain't got to show up at all until it's all said and done. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care who he goes sit down with. They're not going to offer him the bag that we offering him. I guarantee that not happening. And in the same sense, if he does go back on that, now he's really not truly the guy that everybody thought he was in the first place. But at 65, he's old school as they come. And his word is his bond. We just got to wait it out. I think patience is the thing we need to be exercising across the board right now.
Yeah, I agree. Like, okay, let's hear Richmond, Dante, and Martin. Let's hear from you guys. Richmond, let's start with you. We haven't heard you at all. Like,
you heard me though.
Well, you've been listening to all of us. Just feed
I'll be soaking up that good information.
So let's hear. What's your take on it? What's your take on it?
Like I'm just really this guy to know what the hell I'm talking about.
Attaboy.
But I think just listening to everybody. I mean, I think when Doug said BallGame said he's old school. So your word is your bond. I kind of come from that same, if I give you my word, this and that. And then like Doug said, now everybody wants to be the first person to get it out, this and that. And I think he was in a position where I think he agreed to the terms and say, I'm your guy, this and that. Let's just hold tight on this until, we get through the Super Bowl or whatever, but I'm coming, this and that, regardless of whatever. I think if he's a guy that gives his word, he's going to stick to it. But then, like Neal said, if your agent, or you said, if your agent leaks it out there and say, oh, he's coming, this and that, and it hits the news, and then you wake up and you got 20 or 30 texts on your phone, it's like, damn, I thought we was going to keep this, this supposed to be in-house. This ain't supposed to be out there yet. And then it's like, that could piss you off. So I don't think it's anything about the money or whatever. And I think it's huge when your head coach says, hey, if he makes more money than me, that shows me that you're committed to winning. And it's not an ego thing. And I think that's why we've had the success offensively we have. I think he just brings a totally different mindset. I think that probably even shook some of the owners and some, the GM. Hey, man, if we need to pay this guy more money to get in so we can win, it's not about you. It's about the organization, the team. It seems like you truly want success for the organization. Yeah, you're going to get a part of it, but the main thing is to bring that winning tradition back to South Florida a bit. I think he's coming. I just think it just pissed him off that it was leaked out there like that. That's just me.
That's a good point, Richmond. I didn't even think of that. That's a good point.
What's your thoughts, Dante? Martin after Dante?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to come. I think it's just kind of, we have to wait. Maybe he is waiting for the Super Bowl. Maybe he isn't. I would caution the fan base, though, to not think that Vic Fangio is some magician who's going to come in here and wave a wand and the Dolphins are going to be the number one defense in the NFL. That's just not how that works. So while you're waiting here, just be patient. I think enough people who are credible have reported that they've agreed to terms. And so if he backs out, then he backs out. I think they have plenty of pivot points that are good and plenty of candidates that they can bring in who are solid. I thought their initial interview list was great. I thought it was really good. I remember looking at the interview list that they would put out when Brian Flores was the head coach, and I was going, Jesus Christ, can we get somebody from, this tree or something, do you guys remember the offensive coordinator list they put out when they ended up hiring the clowns that they had the last couple of years? Dude, it was brutal. It was awful. So, just seeing that list to me was like, all right, we're good. I'll take any four of these dudes. Sure, send it in. I'm good with it.
Let me ask you this, Dante. Neal mentioned silence. How do you perceive the fact that while all these people are panicking over Fangio, we essentially looks like we wrapped up all of our interviews last Friday because we haven't announced a second one with anyone that we already interviewed first, and we haven't announced anyone new that's hit the market. Evero looks like he's going to be hitting the market. Wilkes hit the market. We haven't announced any of these new guys. Well, I mean, isn't that more of a sign that what you said, that, hey, enough credible sources have come out, this is done, that we haven't announced any more candidates?
But then you also have to think of it from Miami's point of view, right? So this is out there now, and they haven't denied it, right? So if it wasn't true, they would have come out and be like, no, actually, we're going to still interview all these different people. So if they go and interview somebody now, well, then Fangio's going to be like, hey, what the heck? We agreed to terms, blah, blah, blah.
Don't get Neal started. That's a one-way street.
The issue is if you're the team in this scenario, you can't blink first. If Fangio blinks first, then you pivot. But you can't be the team can't be the one to go out and start talking to other people, right? Because that's bad business, right? And that you're dealing in bad faith at that point. So Fangio is out for himself. Then it's over, right? So then you're chopping that relationship up. But if Fangio goes out and talks to other people, then okay, we're gonna pivot. You're doing what's best for you. We're gonna do what's best for us. But right now, I just think it's a holding pattern. It's just, hey, we're waiting to get this ironed out. Maybe he wants to get his affairs in order. Maybe he wants to announce it himself. I have no idea. I don't know what his deal is. I don't know the guy. Never met him.
The man has earned the right to talk to whoever he wants at this point.
That's what I say.
I agree. I agree.
You never met him, but at this rate, he may be working for the 33rd team. He might be agreeing to terms in a couple weeks.
We got a couple head coaches hired this.
That's what I
I'm
said.
feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good.
That's what's it. Martin, your thoughts before we move on to the quarterback situation, bro?
Nah, the more I keep hearing it, man, the more it's kind of getting a little fuzzy because like how you all are saying, man, his ties to San Francisco is actually a little stronger than we thought. Obviously, he went to a Super Bowl with Harbaugh, but it was still San Francisco. And when we're looking at San Francisco right now, team to team, I mean, let's if we could be honest for a moment, San Francisco is the stronger team at the moment as far as their overall where they're at and their trajectory.
Even with Purdy needing Tommy John and being the best quarterback on the league on the
team. even with that, man, I still think they're well put together.
Watch that.
That'll be great. That'll be crazy if that actually falls through, man.
I think it's gonna be. I thought if you would have before the UCL Tommy John, I would have said the Raiders, but now that I think this legitimately probably opened up a 1-year window for Brady to go to San Francisco, because if it's Tommy John, he's not going to be ready. Like I haven't the only two quarterbacks that have ever needed Tommy John surgery. Haven't they been Niners, Mullins and Purdy? I don't know how Tommy John affects because that's a pitcher injury. That's like that's a pitcher surgery, right? Anyways. Sorry, Martin, go ahead. I just had to throw that out there because I don't know if you heard of that today. So
the UCL injury, with Purdy. But regardless, man, I think if I'm Vic Fangio and like how Neal mentioned that he got $35 million guaranteed as the Denver Broncos head coach, right? So as far as his financial status, I think he's good financially. Now, coming to Miami for a double down in finances is one thing, and I'm only assuming that he probably could be considering, okay, do I want to assist in building a championship team with the Miami Dolphins, or do I want to go to a championship caliber team and potentially win the Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers? That could be something that No.
Damn, that's
I'm just saying. You see how close the 49ers have been from 2019, even last year against the Rams, and even right now against the Eagles. They are clearly
almost only
ready.
Counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, bro. So.
But I'm just saying when you look at both sides of that coin, it's like, you know what, man, he might have that. That little voice in his head, like maybe. But
Dwight G. Firm doing you dirty, Martin. This is your boy too. Boy out here.
Sounds like I'm calling from jail.
You have a collect call from Broward County Jail.
Broward County Correctional Facility. I'll accept. My bad, but that's all I want to kind of lay out.
BallGame's got a question for you. Go ahead, BallGame.
Mm-hmm.
So if the 49ers have been to the NFC Championship 4 times in the last 5 years, right? Does that
4 times?
Hold on, it's been roughly that, right? 4 times.
I think it's 3. I think it's 3
okay,
from 2019, 2021, and 2022. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, whatever it is, right? If they've been there that many times, does that say more about them, or does that say how crappy the NFC is?
Well, the NFC. Brother, did you see the quarterbacks the Eagles have faced all season?
The Eagles had the easiest schedule of any team in this year.
Bro, that division's literally nicknamed the NFC
hardest schedule. So it was so soft, bro. The little league team down the street could have probably beat some of them cats, man. So but nevertheless, you got to go play your schedule. My thing is like across the board. I think there's something to be said about where you go and you stake your claim too, right? Like everybody knows if you stacking them up, bro, it's a meat grinder on the AFC side of the world right now. All of the young guns, all the premier young guns at quarterback, reside in the AFC.
And his
Not
defense
in
is
the
fact.
built to beat
That's
these
fact.
quarterbacks. That's the other thing, ball game. That's why he
Mm.
built his defense to beat the Mahomeses. To beat, well, I mean, you don't need to build that defense to beat Herbert, but you know what I'm saying? Like to beat the Burrows. That's why he built that defense, right? You know what I mean? What are you laughing
Not a
at,
bad
bro?
question, Dante, right?
No, because Herbert fell on his face so bad in that wild
Philip
card
Rivers with a
game.
better arm, bro. Oh, bro, how are you gonna go out
Oh
there and
my
say,
God.
"Hey, Kyle Shanahan, 24-3, hold my beer"? Bro, how are you gonna say that, huh? That's ridiculous. All right, let's talk about quarterbacks, boys. Panels are gonna talk all offseason about all these names, all this and that, and the third. We all pretty much up here are under the understanding and know that Tua Tagovailoa will be the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins in 2023. So let's talk about contingency plans, my friends. Free agency, the draft. What would you would you go sign a Baker Mayfield? Would you go spend a little bit more money and try to lure a Derek Carr that you know if this guy goes down, he's walking in there and he could? Are you bringing in someone that's breathing down his neck that he knows, hey man, I can't miss time because if I do, I'm going to lose my job. What are you guys doing? Or are you rolling with Skyler? What are you guys doing with the quarterback situation in 2023 under the pretense that Tua Tagovailoa will be the starter? Dante, I actually want to start with you, brother, because I haven't heard your take on this, and then Dougley will go to you right after that and then go through the everyone else.
So I just finished watching the 12 quarterbacks from this class. And
tell me you love my boy Willie. Tell me you love Will.
We could devote a whole show to that. So I'll save that take for when I'm back on during draft season.
Okay, let's get one thing. Top 5 arm in the NFL when he arrives? Top 10?
Maybe 10. 5's tough.
Okay.
5's tough.
Hey, I'll take 10 out the gate.
Because there are some bad quarterbacks with some cannons. But anyway,
anyway. Hey, bro, don't imply. Don't imply. All right, okay. Go ahead.
Anyway, so I do not think the Dolphins should draft a quarterback in this class and view that player as a legitimate backup. If they want to draft a quarterback in this class to replace Skylar Thompson as QB3, we can have that conversation. I don't really think it's worth having, but we can have it if the Dolphins want. I would get very aggressive and go out and get somebody who can run the offense and play well if Tua goes out. This team's too good to just fall apart without the quarterback at the helm. I'm sorry, they just are. There's too much talent on both sides of the ball, right? And I know the quarterback doesn't play on defense, obviously, but what the offense does affects how the defense plays. The offense isn't converting any first downs, not putting together any drives. The defense is on the field for a long time. They're getting tired. They're getting worn down. So for me, right, you go into this offseason and you try to get a good quarterback, I would argue, whether that's Baker Mayfield. I don't even know who
Taylor Heineke.
If Heineke gets out of Washington, you consider him. If Gardner Minshew gets out of Philadelphia, I think you consider him as well.
Jimmy, would you take Jimmy? Would you take Jimmy?
My issue with Jimmy would be the money, right? So can I work on the money? Can I get to a point where I feel comfortable? Because I'm not going to pay him a starter's salary. He's not going to come here. He won't, unless Tua, retires, which won't happen, right? That's the 1 in a billion chance that I think Jimmy ends up here. But if he's willing, yeah, I do think you go and get Jimmy. I have the same, point for Derek Carr, right? Do I think Carr is going to come here? No. Do I think they should trade for Derek Carr? No. But if you get to a point where you feel comfortable about that value, yes, this team's way too good to fall apart. And look, I don't want to turn this into a Tua evaluation conversation because I don't think anyone in here wants to hear my take on that. But he gets hurt enough that you have to consider that backup quarterback as somebody who's going to play, right? Yeah. And that's not really a knock on Tua. It's just the reality of the situation. And it's been this way since before he was a Dolphin. Dude was hurt every year at Alabama, whether he missed time or not, or he missed 1 week or 2 weeks, whatever it ended up being. He had an injury every season at Alabama, and he's had his injury every season since he's been in Miami. It's just, it is what it is. So whoever you bring in as that backup quarterback, you have to expect them to play. You hope it's no games, but you should expect them to play probably 3 at least. So, I think Skylar Thompson's got a chance to be that guy. I think you keep him on the roster, you develop him, you let him marinate in this system with the coaches that they have in place. But no, like I would go spend like good money, like close to maybe $8 to $9 million a year on a backup quarterback. Team's too good to just fall apart when the starter goes out. I'm watching Kyle Shanahan drag the corpse of Brock Purdy to the NFC Championship the other way. You can talk about the NFC sucks all you want. They beat a bunch of solid teams with Brock Purdy at the helm. I don't want to hear it.
But that's coach. Like Shanahan does it. That's also coaching. That's also like, come on, we watched what he did against us, and he simplified everything for Brock Purdy because he's a good coach. He knew how to attack. Run the football with McCaffrey and predicate everything you do. Short play action off of McCaffrey. High percentage throws. It's what. Yeah. And then what did Herbert and the Chargers do? They almost basically mimicked the same exact offense to us, and they were already doing it because the guy just dominates throwing at the line of scrimmage. But yeah, I think that was very good coaching, man. Like, you want me to be honest with you? I think he could have got more out of Skylar Thompson than what we got, and that's just because he's more experienced at it than McDaniel is at this stage, right?
Shanahan's the best play caller in the NFL. He has other faults that hold that team back sometimes, but nobody's better at down-to-down play calling than
I
Kyle
agree.
Shanahan.
I agree. Doug, what's your take on the whole contingency plan?
In a dream world, I'd love to go out, get Derek Carr, have him back up, because we saw the drop in talent from Tua to the backups against the Vikings, the Jets. I was at the Jets game live watching it, and I was like, if Tua was in there, we would win this game. Yeah. Like it was 19-17 with like 9 minutes left in the game. Like, we were in it with our third string quarterback in there, but the drop was just so drastic. So in a perfect world, my pick would be Derek Carr to be the backup, because I think if Tua goes down, Carr goes in, Tua might not even get his job back. But there's no way that we can go out and pay Derek Carr, because he wants to start, and he can start for the Jets. He could start for Seattle. He could start for whoever, even though Seattle's probably going to re-sign Geno. But Geno's like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Tyler Heineke. I even had a name written down for my free agent video that's going to make some of you guys laugh. What about bringing back Ryan Tannehill?
That was my guy. That's exactly what I was going to say, Dougley. Exactly.
Bring back, like, Tannehill is the perfect type of quarterback that you need him for like 3-4 games. He's going to win you those 3-4 games. Starting, he's going to lose you about 5-6 games. So it's like, why not bring back? Yeah. But that's the situation we're in. I don't think we have the luxury of paying a backup 12-13 million that Derek Carr is going to probably want. Because I even on Twitter, just threw the question out there of Geno Smith to Miami, and I got so much shit for that. It was a general question, and people lost their. Why would he come? You grew up on two already? Blah, blah, blah. Right. I'm like, it's a question.
Bro, you can tell everyone and their mothers, I want Baker Mayfield in Miami next year, because I think Baker can take that job if Tua goes down. He can push the ball downfield. And I'll be honest with you, I would love the swag Baker would bring as a starting quarterback to this team, albeit if it doesn't work out for Tua. I've liked Baker since the draft process. And listen, I mean, taking the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs is like a consolation. It's like the runner up to the Super Bowl, basically, right? Like, few men have done it, right? You basically should get a ring for it. And so, I
Kelly Holcomb.
Yeah, I like his tools. I like his attitude. And listen, he was a backup last year. He started, but he knew what time it was. So I think he's starting to accept that I'm going to have to go somewhere and win a job. And you know what? I think we need someone like that Tua, he's breathing down Tua's neck, and Tua knows, man, listen, I know we're into a gray area with the head stuff, but at least we didn't have the ticky-tacky injuries this year.
Yeah.
Right? Like, at least we didn't have,
the finger, the ankle. Yeah.
Exactly. At least we didn't have that nonsense, which also draws us back to, was Flores really holding him out, like a lot of us were led to believe, for injuries longer than he should have. Neal, what's your thought on the contingency plan other than Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah, a lot of the names that I would.
And what jersey number is he wearing, by the way?
You guys both stole my thunder. I was going to say that today. I think Baker Mayfield is a realistic, and I do like the chip he brings on the shoulder, but I also like his capability of pushing the ball down the field with our receiving core. I think it's a really good fit. I think he's the kind of guy that can motivate a team. I was losing money in the Bahamas when he started that Monday nighter and had that come back for the Rams. Big fan. Dougie, I think you had a great point on Ryan Tannehill. He's one of the guys that I have written down. I
like
think
that name, Doug.
Everyone's going to go back to think about Ryan Tannehill as a starter. He was an average guy here. I think many of us agree, except 2016. I think he played pretty well. But I do think that would be the type of guy that could win us a couple games. I have backup quarterback as the number one need headed into this offseason over offensive line, over cornerback, over anything, because there's two approaches that I have to the last season, two kind of takeaways. I have the participation trophy assessment, which is, gee golly willikers, we made it to the playoffs. Awesome. We finally did it with a first-year head coach. But then the devil on my shoulder is like, well, what could have happened this season if we had a healthy quarterback in that game against Buffalo? Yep. Because, you got to play the games and you got to win. And hell, maybe the referees steal the game from us and, make sure Kansas City gets there anyway. But I truly believe that if you have a starting quarterback, I actually even take it a step further. I think over the last 2 years, if the backup quarterbacks we've had, Jacoby Brissett and Teddy Bridgewater, did what we anticipated them doing, which is probably play 500 ball, but they were a mitigated disaster. I think if you even throw Skylar Thompson in the equation, there's something like 2-8. And you don't want your quarterback to miss 10 games, but that's the reality we deal with. And, we're not going to run away and discard Tua, but any quarterback, and I'm not going to crap on Skylar Thompson. I think he actually did a good thing by beating the Jets to get us again playing smart football. I think he got better as that Buffalo game got along. But if you throw any veteran quarterback out there, I'll say something crazy. I think we win that game if Mike Glennon might play that game. And that's where I get a little sour about everything is what could have happened this year if we did have a healthy quarterback, because we were at 8-3 at a time. And for me, expectations changed. I wanted just to make the playoffs and hopefully get a shot at winning a game. When we were 8-3, my auntie was winning a playoff game. And I honestly think we fell a little short of my expectations. But, I do think finding that viable backup is paramount here.
Richmond, what are your thoughts on the contingency plan?
I agree with, what everybody's saying. I think you got to have somebody that can step in and win a few games. And, like Dante said, I think we all love Tua, but he has been hurt just about every year. He's had to deal with some type of injury. Like you said, even going back to college. So you need a guy that, like you said, when you got the momentum we had, going in, like you said, coming in 8-3, and we knew we had, those 3 in a row rough away games, back to back to back. And, if your quarterback's out, but you need a guy to step in, sometimes you can break it up and get a monotony because I think Doug said it too. I think it's just when you got the amount of talent and it's been proven what can be done when you can get the ball in those type of guys' hands. It's like a waste of talent when one guy goes out and it's just that huge of a drop off. So I would like to say Baker Mayfield or a good quality backup. Tannehill, he's an Aggie, so I ain't got no problem with him. But just a good quality backup, and I agree. Somebody like David Carr, he's not David, but his brother, he's going to start. He's not looking at backing up this and that. So, but a guy that were willing to take that role and come in and like you say, win 3 or 4 games a year. Need be if you have him. I think that's valuable, especially with making the changes that you're gonna make on the defensive side to upgrade that. I mean, you're talking about really competing about not just going to the playoffs, but really going to possibly get a shot at winning the division. So I think you got to definitely consider that and address that need this offseason.
By the way, that is Neal Driscoll. By the way, at the bottom there for all y'all. BallGame, your thoughts on the contingency plan? And Ted S says, how do you feel about Jameis Winston as a backup?
Well, I agree with basically everything everybody else said because you know by now, man, I don't give 2 craps about quarterbacks. I think they're the most But you gotta have a plan in place to be able to stay successful across the board nowadays. So my issue is Baker already said he ain't trying to be nobody's backup. He says he's a starter, and I think Ryan still got that kind of dog mentality in him too. So as long as we don't have a double take or see it the science guy with Teddy Bridgewater, you know what I'm saying, just sitting over there, just offense space, you know what I mean? 'Cause that's who he looks like. That's the character he looks like with that half thing he got going on. See it the science guy. like legitimately, man. If we could, there's a whole bunch of cats out here that we could have had that could have did a better job for us than what he gave us, man. Like he just stole money from us. So as long as, for me, whoever it is, I don't give a shit. As long as they come in and challenge the kid, you know what I mean. That's the biggest thing. You need competition at every position on the team. Iron sharpens iron, man. Anybody that's on the team that doesn't have somebody pushing them, and they don't have to look over their shoulder, worried about the guy behind them, then that's going to be a position that
no room for complacency, baby.
Exactly.
On this side.
So yeah.
Ball game here. I got a question for you. Would you think that coming to Miami though is kind of giving you an opportunity to be the starter for Baker and for Tannehill, because the fact that Tua does get injured every year? Do you think that gives them a chance to start and then not let it go?
I think with a guy like Baker, you got to tell him up front, look, you'll have a chance. You'll have a chance to compete for the job.
Let's be honest with
Ryan. Yeah. Ryan, probably where he is in his career now, he'd be like, well, that kid's gonna get hurt, so I'll play. You know what I'm saying? The mindset's different between the two, but Baker legitimately sees himself as an NFL starter, and I can't argue with the man. I can't argue with the man about how he feels about, you know what I'm saying, where his skill set still is, and he still has some sexy things about his game that are very intriguing. So somebody somewhere, I believe we'll give him a shot to take over a job. But as long as it's not anything remotely close to what we had, man, I just don't care, man. Like it just gotta be better. Yeah. Don't take much to be better than what we had. So
Martin, your thoughts on the contingency plan? What you do with Tua as a starter?
Yeah, this conversation is a little difficult for me to have, only because I understand that we want Tua to be a specific style of quarterback, which is a pocket passer. And the more I kind of look into what pocket passers do and the better pocket passes, not only in the league right now, but even in the most recent past, like Peyton, Drew Brees, even with Tom Brady, man, these guys play all 16 games. Now we have 17 games. And it's not like they're like they're 100% just durable. It's the nature of how they play the position. And in Tua's case, because we're having this conversation, it's a double-edged sword, because we understand that, man, this is what he is. He always gets injured, and because we're having that conversation, it's kind of creating a kind of inevitability that, damn, if this continues, we might not only just look for contingency as a backup, but just a whole quarterback in general. So come this year, this is just me personally. This is me personally. I can care less who we have as our backup. I just need Tua to play all 17 games in 2023, so there is no more conversation like this. Because the more he can stay on the field, the better it is for him to really put things forward as far as a resume and a projection, and just overall, this is our guy. So that's my thing with 2023. I'm not necessarily concerned about contingency. I'm more concerned about Tua just being available throughout the entire thing, because again, his style of play that we need him to adopt, pocket passer, you look throughout the entire NFL, the pocket passers play all full season. They do. And he needs to be that type.
And let's set this straight. All just because we're sitting here talking about contingency plans or backups, remember keywords backup, right. We all share the same sentiment. All of us up here want Tua to play 17 games in multiple playoff games next year.
Exactly.
So,
correct.
Okay, we want
and a Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, exactly. But all of us are. I'm sure I can speak for all of us in this. We want to see him play 17 games because all of us are looking at our chops at what we saw in the first season in this offense, and this will be the first time he's had 2 seasons in the same offense since high school. And we are all probably saying to ourselves, man, the sky is the limit for what this could be. Before I get to final thoughts from you guys, I just got to bring it up because we've talked about it all year. Predictions, guys. Dante, look at you. Lord. Dante was 1 off, and his grand prize is a whole fistful of nothing except our respect and our admiration for being the closest. Now, if
everyone was so mad that I had the lowest prediction, that everyone was pissed.
And look at even better. I'll give you your props.
I mean, I was right there.
Look, bro, I don't want to hear it. Listen to the losing streak this guy had. Look at it at the end of the season there. San Fran, Chargers, Bills, Green Bay. He was literally 1 away from even getting the losing streak right at the end of the season. And then his number would have been right. So, I mean, I got to tip my cap. And if you would have got a dead on, maybe I would have got you a Phinside the NFL cap. But, brother, that is kudos to you for winning. And then Neal, and Richmond, I mean, we were way off. We were way, yeah, I know. Eh? But Doug and BallGame and Martin, okay, BallGame, go ahead. Give your speech about your consolation prize about being close. Go ahead.
No, close it doesn't apply, bro. It's only good at hand grenades and horseshoes. You know.
Well, hey, if you would have got the Chargers game, you're right there with him.
Chargers game, yeah.
And the Jets. If you would have got the Jets and the Chargers game right, you would have nailed it.
Yeah.
You're 2 games off. Wow.
Yeah.
But this is always so difficult to predict because we always go by what they say is the strength.
And we're not accounting for injuries. But we're not accounting for injuries like
that too. But even right now, man, we keep hearing we have the second strongest schedule in 2023 based off of what occurred in 2022. But it's never really like that, man. You know, so it's so hard to predict it, man. Yeah. It's challenge.
And we got the NFC East next year, so I like our chances. You know,
they're bound to fall back to the NFC East again.
Give me as many as you can. Let's go through some final thoughts here, man. Doug, final thoughts, bro, before we get out of here. Fangio, Tua, whatever you want to cover, the draft, whatever you got, free agency.
I think we're all just going to be sitting constantly checking our phones for Fangio. I honestly think he signs with Miami. I think this is just like we were all talking about. This is speculation and all that other stuff. And when you guys brought up the fact that we're like, all right, go ahead, go talk to whoever else. And a prime example of that was in the press conference where Chris Greer said that Mike Gesicki earned the opportunity to be a free agent. Like he's like, go out there and see if you get 11 million a year. Oh, you can't. All right. Do you want to come back here for 6, 7? Like, because we'll give you that. Like, so yeah, I think Vic is coming. Tua, if that man could stay, if he was healthy, let's just say the first concussion, right? I am so confident we would have been 11-0, and he would have been like top candidate. Like and it would have just been a completely different world. I have so much faith in Tua in his skills as a quarterback, but that man can't stay healthy, and that is my biggest knock on him. In the beginning of the year, I said I need to see him play consistently. He did. He did it for 4 games. I was like, there it is. There's the consistency I needed to see. Now I need the health. So again, we got that 5th-year option. We'll talk about that down the road and stuff. But, you know, always a blast coming on this panel of talking to all you guys, and can't wait to do it again.
Damn, you made a good topic. I can't believe I didn't think about. Because, I mean, would you give him the 5-year option? That is a good thing. And we're not going to get into it.
Maybe we'll do this again.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good idea. And, man, listen, I mean, you're right. Tua, a lot of us had questions about ability, and he checked a lot of those boxes this year, but he's still yet to check the availability box, and that's just as big as ability in a lot of circumstances. Because I'll be honest with you, the first time I ever, I was bitter towards Tua was in that Bills game because we should have won that game. If Tua was there, we would have blown them out. I truly believe that we would have won by double digits. BallGame, your final thoughts.
Man, I'm gonna do what I normally do, bro. Exercise patience. I think the stars are aligning. Right, it's a slow process, man, and I learned over the years of being a fan of this team, man. I don't rush the judgment about anything. I just wait for the things to unfold, and then I deal with them as they come. But I think across the board, we turned this thing in the right direction, especially offensively. And we're not too far off of what we need to be defensively. We just got to find somebody that's willing to lead this group, because you can't have the blind leading the blind, and boy, it was just about as blind as they could have been. So they fixed that. I think everything gets back to normal, man. This team really takes a leap forward, and their name is consistently in the talks every year of one of the top teams in the AFC and in the NFL. They have the talent. They have the resources around them to be able to move some things, to get a lot of things accomplished with the guys that are coming back off of injury. I think this is a scary group, man, and they just need some experience. Mike did the best that he could, but I don't think people really understand how difficult it is, man, to call plays on the sideline. It takes years for guys to perfect that, and then you're trying to deal with calling plays, dealing with the refs, hoping that your D coordinator is making and doing his job correct. If he can go through this process and eliminate one whole thing and just give it to a guy that knows exactly what he needs to do to get him the ball back consistently, I say do it, man, and that alleviates one less headache for him to have to worry about on Sundays, especially as a young coach. And we don't have to talk about this anymore. He can just focus on the thing that he does well, which is trim down that book, have your best plays available, and then you can stay consistent. Those are the keys to victory, I think. The health thing, man, football is still a violent sport. So some of those things you just have to deal with. We just got to find out a better way to deal with them so that we can sustain ourselves even when our top guys are gone. And, that's all about the depth chart. So if we can do a better job with the depth chart this offseason and having quality guys behind the guys that are our starters, then I think we can match up with anyone. And I say patience, because I believe that's what Greer and the front office will do to ensure that Mike has the best opportunity to be as successful as possible. So,
Richmond, your final thoughts, brother.
Yeah, I kind of agree with BallGame. I think the biggest thing, and I think that's that I understand from a fan perspective from the Dolphins, is it was so bad for so long, and then you get a taste of it, and you want it right now. So I think we just got to be patient. Like even with the defensive coordinator situation, I think he's going to be our guy. But we can't just let our emotions. You got to get off this roller coaster a little bit and just breathe a little bit and just say, hey, trust the process and just get just kind of mellow out, chill out a little bit, and believe that they're doing the right things. I think they've shown that, especially what they did last year with Aaron McDaniel, bringing in the free agents they did, and then this early to go after that type of coordinator, Fangio, this and that. You see the pieces falling in place. Just trust the process. And then the other thing, like everybody said, and we kind of agree, I think we all love Tua a bit, finding in the event that he gets hurt, we have something, because I think they put something together special. But in the event, we got to have somebody come in and continue to keep everything going in the right direction rather than just a huge drop off. So that's all I got.
Dante, your final thoughts, brother.
Yeah. One of the cool parts of my job is that I get to work with people like Bill Parcells, and he wrote a story for the 33rd team today that was about the importance of finding a coordinator who is on the opposite side of the ball as the head coach, who can kind of work as almost a second in command and take something off of the head coach's plate, almost exactly what BallGame just said. Yes, which is what made me think of it, even though I literally edited it today. And he spoke about how he had to hire a really good offensive coordinator when he was the head coach of the Giants, and how that really helped him become the head coach that he ended up being. And so Mike McDaniel has that opportunity to do that. I think Vic Fangio can be that guy, but I also think there's a couple other people out there who could be that guy for him, right? So regardless of that, I think getting that hire right is so critically important, because I understand why they kept Boyer last year, right? Like knowing what we know now, obviously not the best decision, but when they made it, it made sense, right? Like you could kind of see their thought process there and like, okay, fine. But this is really his first chance to find that guy that's going to make him a better head coach. And I think that's why this is so important. For the Tua thing, I think people underestimate the counterpunch that defenses threw at the offense in the middle of the year there just a little bit. I do think that there's going to have to be some growth in that scheme and how Tua commands that offense and what the offense is capable of doing. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for this year. Not really a critique. It's just the nature of the NFL, right? The NFL is a counterpunch copycat league. And so I do think that there's a blueprint out there for limiting what the Dolphins will do. And I think they'll see more of it next year. So it's on Tua and McDaniel to figure out, okay, well then how do we counterpunch the counterpunch, right? It's almost like a boxing match. And so that's what makes guys like Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay special, is that they come out the next year after somebody figures them out and they have the answer. Right? Like when the Rams got blown up in the Super Bowl by the Patriots, right? It was that Vic Fangio 6-1 tilt front. Well, Sean McVay came out and said, you know what? I'm going to block defensive ends with wide receivers and we're going to run power and bust a hole through that. And there's no linebackers, right? So I'm getting a little bit too into the weeds because that's my jurisdiction, but that's what I'm going to be looking for this year out of Tua as a part of the injury stuff. Is what is the next step in his development? It's being able to go into a game, play a shit first half, and come out in the second half with a better game plan and better execution. Because I haven't really seen that from him. When defenses figure him out, it takes him a second, right? That's the next step. That's what makes quarterbacks elite. That's what I want to see.
Martin, your final thoughts, brother. Good points, Dante.
Yeah, man. Hey, I will say, like everyone keeps saying, when you put your word out there, make it bond. So I'm not hoping, but there's a point where I'm like, yeah, Vic has to come to Miami. So when you have Vic 2 come to Miami, you have a voice that these guys have been desperately waiting to hear, which is a voice of authority. And once these guys hear that, I think that's when we're going to start really seeing a more intensified defense, more sacks, more forced fumbles, more 3-and-outs, more interceptions. It's going to intensify just because that's the type of coordinator Vic Fangio is. So that's a positive. But in the case with Tua, I'm with and honestly, man, every time I think about like how we're basically talking about how the Dolphins just had a lull in the middle of the season against the 49ers, the Chargers, the not necessarily the Buffalo Bills, but they had a blueprint, right? And when you see that blueprint and you're talking about how do you counter that, yeah, you do have to go back to the drawing board. And I think because this was the first year under this offense, I think the first thing was to figure out how to execute this offense, and then the counter is going to come in the off season, and those things will be ironed out, and we'll really see the next step that this offense will take. And also the real quick on free agency, the number one thing I really wanted to address is offensive line to really get guys in here that can execute the scheme that McDaniel has drawn up. So we can really break this thing open in the run game, which will, just by osmosis, add to the passing game. And we have to address the linebackers for Vic Fangio when he comes in and really, have that front seven.
And you'll need
and we might have to, because Brandon Jones is a greater run defender and blitzer than he is just an overall coverage guy. But free agency, I think we definitely have to address the trenches and the front sevens, like the defensive front, more specifically linebackers. And with the draft, there's not too much really to highlight about the draft, except we have 3 picks in day 2, and all 3 of those picks should be players that you can bring in and have roles for immediately, because there's always going to be a place here or there that, even though you have players that you like, if there's a better option that you can pick up right now and put them into that lineup, hey, pull the trigger, whether it be a running back, let's say safety, whatever it might be. But let's go ahead and get those type of players in and let's see what happens. But overall, man, this was a really good season. This was a better season than I anticipated, even with the record that we showed at the end of the year. And as far as teams are concerned, we were one of the handful of teams that I believe finished out the season on a real high, as far as what we're expecting in 2023. That includes us, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Houston, teams like that. Like you can look at those teams and be like, okay, they're going to make some noise in 2023. So, we're one, and I'm just hoping we really figure this thing out and take that next step that I know we can take. So.
Neal, your final thoughts, buddy.
Yeah, I had a couple things fast and furious here, but one quarterback that catches my interest that we didn't name is Tyler Huntley from Baltimore, who just was named a Pro Bowler today, which probably is kind of laughable about the Pro Bowl, but he doesn't put up.
Yeah, he was like the fourth alternate, right? Wasn't he like the fourth?
He's like
alternate?
the sixth.
Yeah, he doesn't put up gaudy numbers, but he plays winning football, and he kept the Ravens in the season. With Lamar's injuries. And we all know the fumble at the 1 yard line against Cincinnati, but let's not discount that he almost beat Joe Burrow and the Bengals in their house in the opening round of the playoffs, right? So that's a guy that I like. One thing I would say is that we have a plethora of free agents. It's a pretty long list. If I could bring back any of our own guys, the guy that I would like to bring back is Andrew Van Ginkel. He impacts two phases of the game, and I think he's such a good rotational piece on defense. I think he'll probably cost $7-8 million a year. It won't be cheap, but I like him. When it comes to the free agency and the draft, Reason and I did a episode of Fin Too Deep where we really highlighted the ability to be flexible in terms of cap space with restructures and releases and extensions with players like Christian Wilkins and Connor Williams. So it's a very pivotal off season where, if I'm being frank, after the franchise tag gets slapped on these top players like Lamar Jackson stuff, that the 23 free agent class kind of is lackluster. There's not a lot there, but it is a really nice linebacker core. Guys like TJ Edwards stand out to me. David Long from Tennessee, a couple of those guys. Bobby Okereke from the Colts is another guy. I'd really like to see us try to get one or two of those guys to revamp the linebacker core heading into the draft. And like Martin said, it's time to fix this offensive line. I think we have a really good player in Terran Armstead, two good players in Robert Hunt and Connor Williams. Left guard and right tackle. There's a lot to be desired there. I like personally Jawan Taylor from Jacksonville as a guy that you can plug and play, a younger guy, 25 years old. They have Cam Robinson locked up long term, and Walker Little looked great in his time there. So maybe a guy like that shakes free. And kind of my closing thought here is please scout this running back class, Chris Greer, because I think there is some very, very talented players here. And, you're looking at, like Martin just mentioned, we have three top 100 picks. And, when you look at round 3, there's going to be guys that are there that can come in and start. And, maybe you get a veteran back like a Raheem Mostert, but get some fresh legs here. Let's stop doing these retreads. Let's go try to find a real bell cow. Other teams have done it. We haven't been able to do it, but I think the Tua Tagovailoa's best friend would be a nice balanced running game. But
absolutely,
thanks for having me.
Let's revitalize Kareem Hunt's career.
Yeah, he's only 27. He's only 27. I was looking into the ages.
But how much
today.
is he going to want? What's he going to want?
It won't be that 12 that Saquon wanted. 12 or more, right?
Saquon turned down 12. He wants
at
least 14 from the sounds of it.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to get Saquon.
Yeah, I don't think Kareem Hunt's going to demand outrageous money. Like, and I know there's a big notion of people like Saquon Barkley, and I love Saquon. He's my top 5 collegiate players of all time. My wife went to Penn State. We went all the time to go watch him play. It was awesome. But with that said, I don't ever want to pay running back second contracts. I think that's how You get your hand caught in the cookie jar. And I don't think we can afford that luxury. We have we have a lot of needs. Linebacker,
especially if y'all want to spend money on a quarterback.
No, not if we want to.
Right?
We have to.
I'm just saying, if we want to spend legitimate money on a legitimate backup, you really going to allocate all that money to a running back? No, man.
Spot Track has him his annual salary like calculated market at $7 million for Kareem Hunt.
I'd pay that.
Yeah, I'd pay that for 2 years. See what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but like you said, like you said in the draft, in the draft, man, you got guys like Zach Evans, from Ole Miss that could definitely fall in our lap. Charbonnet,
Devin A. Chain, my boy, right there.
Hey Shane, you mentioned a running back from Illinois that I kind of
Chase Brown. He had a tough day today. He had a tough day at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying his film looks really good. As far as explosiveness, but man, there's a ton of guys, man.
Chris Rodriguez from Kentucky could be a late guy, right?
Christopher
Abaconda.
What about Kendre Miller from TCU?
Miller.
Yeah, he's a good runner.
I'm not even gonna try and butcher the name, but what is it? Abenakanda from Pitt.
Yeah, I just said him. Yeah, Israel. He's a beast. Mm-hmm.
He's a beast. Dwayne McBride. I know a lot of people are high on Dwayne McBride too.
Mohamed Ibrahim is a good scat back, change of pace guy from Minnesota. There's a good amount. There's a good amount that you can bring in. That'll be
no love for Eric
really
Gray. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a pretty deep draft class, right? So
for running backs, yes.
Dante, who are you drafting in the third round, bro?
At running back, nobody. I'm not drafting running back in the third round. No, I'm just kidding. Third round's not a bad place. I kind of like the kid from Syracuse a little bit. Tucker. He's kind of small, but he's got some juice. I think he'd be a good one cut back.
He went to my high school.
5'10" is like 200, right?
Yeah, he's a Calvert Hall Cardinal. He went to my high school.
There you go. That's even more reason to do it then.
You know what I want,
like
boys? I want to see A-Chain's speed in this. Like, this guy's out here saying he's going to break the combine record and run a 4.2 and break the combine record. Like, I want to see that speed coming out of the backfield, bro. Man, I mean, that's just very intriguing with all the speed you already have. Imagine if we got a running back that could run a 4.2. Oh, my Lord.
Ridiculous.
That'd be unbelievable. Anyways, guys, we're going to get out of here.
Luck would be that
Go ahead.
Our luck would be that he's that fast and couldn't catch the cold.
Yeah. Kalen Ballage, right?
Yeah, that part.
Athlete trying to be a football player, bro. A football player that's an athlete. All right. We're going to get out of here. I appreciate all of you gentlemen for coming up and doing this. Always a good time. I'm sure, like Dougley said, we'll have one later on during this season once, maybe after free agency gets through and we're heading into the draft. Maybe we'll do another one of these guys. But awesome as always. Great information. A lot of Fangio talk. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Yeah, and I'll be back this week. And hey, when Fangio gets signed, sealed, and delivered, part 2 of my analyzing the X's and O's and the film study will be coming of Vic Fangio and BallGame. I talked to him and he'll probably be joining me for that. So guys, I appreciate each and every one of you. Smash that like button. Still about 600 of you in the room. Smash that like button on your way out. Appreciate each and every one of you. Have a fantastic rest of your night. And as always, fins up. Big Vic energy, baby. Let's go.